1 week after a miserable performance against the Chargers, the Eagles get their lick back against the Raiders, shutting them out with a score of 31-0. The Birds' first time holding a team to 0 points since 2018. We'll recap this win, along with our takeaways, some Eagles news, and what the Birds need to do to hopefully push themselves further up the ranks in the NFC playoff picture as they head on down to the nation's capital. Without wasting any more time, let's dive right into it. What's up, y'all, and welcome to 2nd and 15, a Philadelphia Eagles fan podcast powered by Old City Sports Network, the best network for all your Philadelphia sports needs. This is your host, Michael Roscoe. Even though it was just the Raiders, the Eagles get a dominating win over Las Vegas just 1 week after losing an overtime matchup to the Chargers. And this happened in what's been a season where we've seen everything and anything happen. From the Chiefs missing the playoffs for the first time in a decade, to 44-year-old grandfather Philip Rivers coming back to the NFL, to Drake May being in MVP conversation 1 year removed from a 4-13 season. It's been a wild year for the league, and getting a win, especially after a 3-game losing streak, feels pretty damn good. The Birds came back swinging this week and dominated on both sides of the ball. Jalen Hurts would go 12 for 15 passing for 175 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 0 turnovers. He would also carry the ball for 40 yards. Tight end Dallas Goedert was the star receiver this game, making 6 catches for 70 yards and 2 touchdowns. We saw a little more from Saquon this week, accounting for 22 carries for 78 yards and a score. The defense had themselves a day as well, not allowing the Raiders a single point, looking well put together, making textbook tackles, and getting to former Eagles backup quarterback Kenny Pickett 4 times. This game was exactly the type of game not only Birds fans were hoping for, but for the team too, as they are looking to bounce back up, not just physically, but emotionally as well. And a dominating shutout win definitely helps boost morale. Before we get into our takeaways from this Week 15 win, let's briefly look at some Eagles news. Starting things off, 4 players did not participate in Wednesday's practice, including Jalen Carter, Landon Dickerson, Lane Johnson, and Fred Johnson. This is better from the 6 non-participants, including those aforementioned 4, plus Cameron Latu and Saquon Barkley on Tuesday. So we're getting healthier each day so far, and that's a good sign. What's also fortunate is that we did not see Jalen Hurts listed on any injury report so far this week, which some people thought would happen after getting tackled in an awkward way that looked like it could have injured his left knee in the win against Vegas, but he seems to be doing all right. And last bit of news, the Eagles' next opponent, the Washington Commanders, officially reported that they are shutting down their franchise quarterback Jaden Daniels for the remainder of the season after battling multiple injuries and being officially eliminated from playoff contention. That means that another former Eagles backup quarterback and current Commanders backup quarterback, Marcus Mariota, will start against the Birds this Saturday. Alright, y'all, let's dive into our takeaways from this Week 15 win. Starting off, my first takeaway, the offensive performance excites me moving forward. Yes, even with it just being the Raiders. Look, this offense was dominant against a 2-12 team, so of course there's going to be some skepticism regarding how significant this win actually was for the Birds. However, it's not necessarily who we played or how many points were scored versus how many points the defense prevented the other team from scoring. It's the mechanics of how we played that excites me moving forward. First of all, we saw 30 plays with Jalen under center, the most we've seen with that setup all season. And it's pretty easy to look at the results of Jalen Hurts under center versus him in shotgun formation and see why the Birds need to have Jalen Hurts under center a lot more often. When Hurts is passing from under center in play action, the team averages 10.5 yards per attempt versus just over 5.5 yards per attempt while in shotgun formation. Solely using Jalen in the shotgun has severely limited the ability for the Eagles to get down the field, especially on first downs. But under center, it looked pretty damn good, and we got first downs way more often. Additionally, when passing the ball from under center, Jalen has a 65% pass completion rate, has only taken 2 sacks, and averages over 13 yards per completion with a passer rating of over 125, which ranks them in the top 3 quarterbacks in the league within these parameters. This team legit performs twice as better under center than in shotgun. Hell, Jalen had his second best passing game with a rating of 154.9 with almost 50% of snaps being under center. This only comes second to his perfect passer rating game that he had versus Minnesota. As a whole team, Jalen being under center is beneficial to the entire offense as it opens up the diversity of routes, it throws off the defense, it reduces our predictability, something that we've been complaining about all damn season from this Kevin Patullo offense, and it significantly reduces our negative plays, and that's been a big fucking problem for the Birds this season. In this game, the Eagles had just under 20% of their plays result in 0 gain or negative yards. The previous week against the Chargers, that number jumps up to almost 50% of plays having 0 gain or negative yards. And guess what? They were in shotgun formation a lot more often against the Chargers than they were against the Raiders. So it goes to show when the Eagles have Jalen Hurts under center more, the team just does so much fucking better compared to when they're mainly in this predictable ass shotgun formation under a Kevin Patullo offense. Secondly, KP finally let Jalen run the damn ball. We've been asking for that all season too. This was Jalen's 3rd best rushing game in average yards per carry and his 4th best overall rushing game by total yards. Even though he didn't score a touchdown on the ground, Jalen's average of 5.6 yards per carry helped the Birds get further down the field and continued to support the run game, allowing us to open up the pass game even more, something that the Eagles tend to use within their identity. Looks like we're getting that identity back. They utilized their run to expand their passing play opportunities. And we saw how well that worked this past weekend. What I also liked from Kevin Patullo was that he split the rushing caseload. Eagles fans over the past couple of weeks have wanted to see more of our running back 2, Tank Bigsby, and we got that wish. He played with both the starters and the second stringers when the starters were taken out in the 4th quarter, carrying the ball 17 times for 57 total yards, his 2nd best rushing game of the Eagles this season. To put things into perspective, Tank Bigsby carried the ball 17 times in this one game. The previous 6 weeks, he's carried the ball a cumulative 18 times. And Bigsby got us in good field position and almost got a touchdown. He was so damn close, and I know Birds fans were wanting him to see him in the end zone. He wanted to get in the end zone, the team wanted to get in, but he just came up short. Anyway, it was good to see shared responsibility in the run game and not wear down Saquon Barkley by having him carry the bulk of the run game load. I think Saquon only had like 5 more carries than Tank Bigsby did this game, which is nowhere near what it has been throughout this entire season. Overall, and again, I know it was just the Raiders as people like to shove down everyone's throats. This shows Kevin Patullo physical proof of when he makes pre-game adjustments and diversifies the play calling, especially having Jalen Hurts under center more often, the offense clicks together as one majorly talented, cohesive unit. And hopefully, this gets Kevin's head out of his own ass and continues this style of play calling throughout the remaining games versus the bullshit we've been seeing the past 14 whatever weeks. If he goes back to that same bullshit in this next game that he had been doing, we can just leave him in Washington. My next takeaway from this game is that the defense dominated, but in more ways than people know. The Eagles defense had a monster day even without Jalen Carter in the lineup. As a unit, they recorded 48 tackles, 4 sacks, 6 tackles for loss, 5 pass deflections, 9 QB hits, and an interception from linebacker Zach Bond. An overall impressive performance against a struggling offense, which a lot of people want to discredit because of the Raiders' record. But here are some things this defensive team did that are impressive no matter who the opponent was. First of all, our defense had 0 missed tackles. That's right. Out of the 48 tackle attempts, they didn't miss a single one, which was a big reason why the Raiders only had 75 yards of total offense on the day. Also, that is the lowest amount of yards an Eagles defense has allowed in a single game since 1955. The Birds are the first team in the NFL to record 0 missed tackles in a game this year. And yes, that includes the 13 other games that Raiders played against other opponents. So them not missing any tackles is impressive in and of itself. Next, you got Brandon Graham, a 37-year-old defensive end who came back less than a year of retiring, lining up as a defensive tackle and logging 2 sacks, 2 tackles, and a tackle for loss in 7 snaps. That's pretty damn impressive, also considering now he is the oldest NFL player in league history to record a sack in a game. The last time I can remember, actually remember, Brandon Graham lining up as a D tackle was in Super Bowl 52, in which he lined up on the inside and forced a Tom Brady sack and turnover to essentially ice the game and deliver Philly their first Super Bowl title. Now, I'm not 100% sure how many other times he's lined up on the inside between Super Bowl 52 and last week, but it seems like that Graham makes these big-ass plays when he does that interior lineup. Personally, this is something I think the Eagles need to continue to evaluate and possibly do more, especially with Jalen Carter's unknown return to the lineup. Normally, I'm not a huge fan of players lining up outside of their normal position, but Graham moving inside is one of the few moments in which I actually enjoy that change. Overall, this defense has been dominating, especially since the arrival of Jalen Phillips on the edge, in which the Eagles rank in the top 10 across several categories, including sacks, points per game allowed, pressure rate, and takeaways. Again, people will take this game with a grain of salt, but if our defense keeps up this momentum and plays like they did in this game, NFL offenses are going to have a hard time stopping this defense. A hell of a game from Vic Fangio's unit this week. All right, my final takeaway from this game, Tanner McKee will be a starter one day for somebody. In a type of way, Eagles fans who wanted to bench Hurts and see Tanner McKee play got their wish, just not in the way they would have expected to. Tanner McKee would enter the game in the fourth quarter as the Birds rested their starters, which makes sense when you're up 31-0 with no signs of slowing down. McKee would go 3 for 3 passing for 33 yards, and we saw something we haven't seen from him yet. He can run. Granted, it was 1 carry, but it was for 9 yards, a first down, and on a 3rd and 8 situation. It was pleasantly surprising to see that level of mobility from a backup quarterback. Now, McKee has been the subject of trade talks in the past because of his talents and how the Eagles can benefit from quarterback-needy teams for draft capital, for players, whatever the case may be. I won't dive too much into that this week. It's possible, though, we could see McKee depart from the Birds for a quarterback-needy team. And I think with continued development and from the small sample sizes that we've seen so far, I think Tanner McKee could be a starter for a team one day. We've seen him run. We've seen him read a defense really well. He had 2 touchdowns in his first 5 NFL pass attempts, and he's got a cannon of an arm. I could definitely see him starting somewhere else one day. But for right now, and slightly selfishly, I like having him on the Birds as our QB2. Just in case. All right, y'all, let's do a brief preview of this Week 16 matchup. So, The Birds moved down I-95 to take on, for the first time this year, the Washington Commanders as they continue their path to hopefully win the division and with a slim chance of obtaining the number 2 or the number 1 seed. Washington is coming off a win against the New York Giants, but have had a tough season this year, dealing with injuries across the board, including their franchise quarterback Jaden Daniels, and most recently, their first-string tight end in Zach Ertz, as he suffered a season-ending injury in Week 14 against the Vikings. The Birds have the chance to clinch the NFC East division this weekend through multiple possible outcomes, including if the Birds get a win this weekend, regardless of the results of how Dallas does against their opponent. I don't have too much this week, however, I do have a few simple thoughts about how the Birds can get the win in Washington. First thought is, don't forget Marcus Mariota is a mobile quarterback too. When we think of a dual threat quarterback in Washington, obviously we think Jaden Daniels over Marcus Mariota. I don't even think Marcus Mariota would come to mind. However, our defense needs to remind themselves that Mariota has similar capabilities of being a dual threat quarterback. We know and expect him to pass the ball. He's got like 1,600 passing yards in the games in which he has played in place of Jaden Daniels. But on the ground, he's averaging 6.1 yards per carry on the season, has a rushing touchdown, and had a long rush of 44 yards. Now, obviously, he's no Jaden Daniels by any means, but his ability to run on the ground should be considered a factor in the run game, and the rushing defense should be ready to break off of blocks and go after Mariota if he doesn't see his read on a play action or any type of passing play. And the last, and probably like the most simple but biggest thought I had for this team going against Washington this weekend, as a whole team, do not let up. Do not take your foot off the pedal. Slam that shit on the gas and keep going forward. The win over the Raiders is something the fans not only wanted to see, but I feel like expected to see. Even despite the 3-game losing streak, I feel like a lot of fans were still like, we should beat the Raiders. We should pummel the Raiders. If we don't, shit's hitting the fan. Especially considering the discrepancies of talent between these two teams. However, the way the Birds played against Vegas specifically is something I believe can be replicated with similar results going against other more powerful NFL teams. Now, of course, I'm not saying they're going to shut out their opponents over the next 3 weeks, but I think with the changes that were made this past week, especially on the offense, it carries a lot of momentum to play at that same level moving forward. I say this not just about the players, but mainly for the offensive coaching unit, because I know Vic Fangio on the defensive side, he will always do what he does best. But for Patullo and Sirianni, we can't afford to have them revert back to the way the offense played prior to Week 15. We've seen instances where KP's been a successful play caller, such as against the Cowboys or the Broncos, but then refused to go back to those plays for weeks on end for whatever fucking reason. He cannot go backwards. He has to take what he did with the offense this week and move forward with it. And that is how we'll continue seeing success as we get closer to the postseason. All right, y'all, my final thoughts before I let you go this week. As many have said before, they look at this game and think it was just the Raiders. A phrase we've heard all too much, especially in this episode, that will be used to discredit the Eagles' win. But at the end of the day, fuck what they say. A win is a win. The same people that have discredited the Eagles for their win over Vegas literally praised Dallas for the same damn thing, and they scored points against Dallas, and they didn't against us. Yes, the Raiders as a team are horrible this season, but let's not forget this. Even though they lost these games, the Raiders put up 16 points against Dallas, 24 points against the Bears, and 29 points against Jacksonville. And then the cherry on top, the Raiders beat the 11-3 Patriots, who are the number 2 seed so far in the AFC playoff picture. The Eagles did not allow the Raiders to score a single point. They held Vegas to their worst offensive output of yards since 1961. they held Vegas to their second worst rushing and overall worst passing games of the year, and their worst point differential of the season. As fans, we should not look at this game as, oh, it was just the Raiders, whatever. We should look at this game as, we got a win, we played lights out, we saw some great changes on offense, and we snapped a 3-game losing streak. We should be proud of this win, not just content with it. Alright y'all, that is it for this week's episode. Thank you all for joining us. Don't forget to like, subscribe, or follow on YouTube, X, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok by searching at 2nd and 15, that is 2NDAND15, or by the full name 2nd and 15, a Philadelphia Eagles fan podcast. You can also find the audio for each and every single episode releasing Thursday mornings on Spotify, Amazon, Apple Podcasts, Player FM, or wherever you get your podcasts, with the video uploading to YouTube later that same day. This episode, 2nd and 15, and Old City Sports Network are brought to you by SeatGeek. Download the app and use promo code Old City Sports Network, all one word, for $20 off of your first purchase. Now, I know there's only a few weeks left in the NFL regular season. The postseason's coming up and those tickets can be expensive, but SeatGeek can also offer you tickets for other sporting events, concerts, and more. So be sure to download the app today or check SeatGeek.com. Use our promo code Old City Sports Network for $20 off your first purchase today. Once again, thanks y'all for joining in. This is 2nd and 15, a Philadelphia Eagles fan podcast powered by Old City Sports Network. Don't forget to check out the game this Saturday afternoon at 5 p.m. on Fox. We'll see you all next week. Don't forget to stay fly like an eagle, and as always, go Birds!